Hey, what's up? It's Rashad. Holiday Tonio. Loki, episode 4, season 2, The Heart of the TVA. All spoilers. We 4 out of 4. There's some people who did not understand episode 2 when it came out. This episode pretty much explains why we needed episode 2 and the
Yeah.
whole, breaking Brad, because Brad comes back and plays a major role in this. We had a whole plan for this. I cannot go in chronological order. So if you saw the
Yeah.
episode, you just want to hear our thoughts today. You know what happened. By the time, okay, well, I watched this like 2.5 times. Okay. The first time I watched
Okay.
this, I can't lie. Like it was late. I didn't catch it. But the
Uh-huh.
second time I saw this, and when I realized we switched from present TVA Loki to the future TVA Loki, and then looped
hmm
around, and then he ends up
hmm
killing him. He ends up not killing himself. He ends up
Pruning,
pruning
pruning
himself,
himself.
and then
Yeah.
looks back at Loki and looks back at Sylvie. Is like it'll make sense later. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you slick bastards. Like I was like, man, that's and on the real, like that's some real like Rick and Morty stuff right there. Like
Yeah.
that's where that whole timeline, different universe dynamic really coming into play.
What was your initial impression when you saw this episode? What was that, man?
Wow.
Okay.
Like when I ended the episode, I was like, I know you're not gonna fade to black. There's gonna be credits. Credits. And it was so like the whole episode, okay. I really like, to me, this is one of the storytelling devices that I love. I really appreciate when there is the inevitable end where you think like, yo, the heroes is gonna do the thing and everybody's gonna go away happy, but it
hmm
all fails and they really have to
Man.
find a new rock bottom. Like I appreciate that because it's so subtle because we're so used to everything resolving in a very neat and nice way. That's just what our minds, when even comes to just a plot diagram, we're used to having our
hmm
resolution resolve.
hmm
Even though this is a 6 episode arc, this one episode resolves in a place where it's you don't we don't really know, and that's the thing, another thing I love too, we don't really know what's going to happen next.
No, no. I mean, like I said, if we were expecting, they was building it up, and then you see Victor timely be like, no, I need to go out there. I need to be the one out there in case something goes wrong, to put the device into to fix the loom. And there was like, all right, man, be careful. He goes out there and you're like, all right, let's see how this is going to end. Maybe you're saying to yourself, you might see something where something might go wrong where he's air and then like face the black. Oh no, 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 no. They open up the barrier door and you're like, all right, he takes one step outside and they took that victory and snatched it right away.
Yo.
My God, he's spaghettified. And I saw that and I was like, I beg your pardon. I said, yo, he really did it. And then I went back and I saw it again and I kind of like slowed it up a little bit. Do you know the pain that man was in? You could see the skin getting spaghettified, but you also started seeing the rib cage. You could see a little bit of rib cage,
Mhm.
spinal column. And when he's yelling, you see bottom jawbone or whatever, and then it just basically fades into dust afterwards. I said that
Yeah.
had to have been excruciating. And then,
Tony. But
bro,
that wasn't the most wild death scene in the whole thing.
no, it wasn't. That wasn't.
Yo,
But and then
when
when the show, wait a minute, before we get to that, and then you see what happens. You're like, oh snap! And like you said, the loom basically explodes or whatever it does. The flash fades to black. I said, I know that that's about to give us that soprano action. And like you said, credits. But like back to what you were saying, man.
Oh, yeah, but
That
yo,
won't even know wild as sex. That I said sex.
sexy. That wasn't a lot of sexy. Bro, what was you watching last night?
Oh my god, that wasn't.
Yo, that's a hell of a Freudian slip, yo.
That was. Oh god, oh god, that wasn't even the wildest death scene, as I was saying.
Nah,
Yo.
it wasn't because when Ravona and Miss Minutes go into the chamber where they're located and said, "Look, Minute Men, we need y'all." And she's like, "Yo, BPC just came in here, gave us the same speech, and like on the real was like, I believe in this other black lady more than you." You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So Ravana's like, "Hey, here's the deal. Come help us restore this thing, and y'all can have your life up back on the timeline if I really want." And
Mm-hmm.
Brad was like,
Mm-hmm.
I love me some timeline. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know what I love about this scene too? Like the
Mm-hmm.
way that it was shot, because Brad is
Mm-hmm.
basically closer to the Minutemen and all of them in General Docs.
Yeah.
And by the end, when they locate them and grab them in the kill box, the literal kill box, he's basically standing beside them.
Right.
It is so subtle how they did that.
Because
But
he didn't even give a verbal. He didn't give a verbal like I'm with
no, he
you.
didn't.
They
You're
just
right. You're
he
right.
didn't give a verbal nothing. They just knew. They knew by the look on his eyes and everything. And when Miss Minutes got damn problematic, psychopathic, it's like they knew. They knew. And when she jumped into that machine and put the cube around everybody else, and you saw what Doc said. Doc was like, "How does that make you feel?" Yeah, we would rather die than follow you.
Yeah. And Roland was like,
All right, then.
frankly, I don't give a damn.
I really, right, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. But
Because
it's the,
like
but
in
it's
his
the
thing to
horror.
me, to Ravana, it was like this is a necessary evil. But to
Mm-hmm.
Miss Minutes, she
She
was
was getting off.
reveling.
She
Uh-huh.
was getting, she was getting off. So when she jumped into the machine to turn it on, and she jumped out, she had like a demented look at her face. And then when the machine started like closing in on the group, the look she was like, it
Yeah.
was like the pure joy and ecstasy of it all of killing. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that scene in The Dark Knight when the Joker is holding an interrogation, and Batman is all trying to save them, and and the Joker is looking at that one cop, and he's just like, hey, he was like, yeah, why I use knives instead of guns? He says, because I get to savor that moment. And she was savoring that death of them,
Uh-huh.
collapsing in. And then think about it like this. Being in a box by yourself like that, like X5 was, and it was shrinking is one thing. But those other people were in there with like about what 15, 20 other people. And your last moments of life are basically skin to skin getting crushed with these people. And it was a horrible scene where my man couldn't even look.
Tony, did you hear like the
Yes.
liquefaction of bodies after the scene was over?
Yes, the viscera when B-15 came in and she was looking when she walked through the door, you hear the I was like, oh my God. And the look on her face. And I mean, and like I said, possibly one of the most gruesome non-visual death scenes that's probably in Disney history, period. But like you said, like I said, we was like, yo, that's crazy. Like you said, we talked about what happened to Victor Timely. That was kind of like, wow, like
How like
they did
I
that,
mean it's
but
because
not like this though.
like there was like the levels to this for that to low key be like outshadowed by the ending is crazy because that was crazy enough in and of itself. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, they really
Mm-hmm.
don't care this episode, yo. And that okay. Let's get to the list, man, because we about to start
All
jumping.
right.
I want to make sure I get organized. All right, so we already talked about oh yeah, time slip in TVA Loki. That was good. And kind of already talked about why episode two mattered. So getting back to why episode two mattered and why a lot of people were wrong. And this is one of those times where I be impatient about stuff. Like I want, but sometimes as the people say, that's getting played out. You got to let them cook. So I saw what they were trying to do with episode two. They wanted to show people from the TVA who are now really wanted to be invested in something else other than the TVA. Because anytime they went off the timeline, it was never for pleasure. It was for work. It was for business. It was, for all time, always, forever, as we found out this episode, with Ravonna and He Who Remains, who double crossed her, which was like, of course it did, and confirms that everybody's mom was wiped at least once. We're gonna say several times, except for Boris. So anytime they went the timeline, it was just for work. But when Brad went on timeline, he went off script for real, found a life, and was able to essentially be happy in a way that he wasn't before. That happiness and that self fulfillment, the joy, to be honest, of being popular and having money and females and whatever wanting you, being a superstar, that was what he wanted. So when that was presented to him in this episode, that the weight of that is so much more, because you know what it reminded me of instantly when of course when he went with Ravonna, it reminded
What's
me of
that?
Hela and Scourge. That's what it instantly reminded me of, because as soon as he saw the power that Hela had, he was like, "Shit, I can't." My
I'm trying to be
liege,
here
you
for
know
the
what I'm
long
saying?
time, not
Like,
the fun time, baby.
nah. Maybe what I'm saying, Brad will have a Scourge, dying to save the people moment, but other than that, like he really did the only thing that he could do in hopes to
Yeah.
get back to what he wants.
Yeah. And then like I said, going back to the previous episode, we did a thing where we was trying to figure out exactly what Miss Minutes meant when she was like, oh, I know a secret and you won't like it. And and then we made another video where I talked about what my theory, I'm saying, was for that. I think my theory is still holding up a little bit right now until it's completely not. I think it's still holding just a little bit, Rashad, only because she shows her. It's crazy too because she did like a scan of the Citadel, kind of like how it was done in Into the Spider Verse. Into the Spider Verse with the
Yeah.
tech that Gwen
Yeah.
did with
Yeah. Yeah. I
the
noticed
shop or
that. I
whatever.
noticed that.
And so it was the playback, and they played it back. And basically that was the recording that Loki listened to when he went into the future. When he went,
Yep.
was it in the future or whatever? And kind of find out Ravonna was the lead commander in his army
Yeah.
to help.
She was in the Minutemen.
And
Yeah.
she was right, and she was the one that tilted the tide in the war, in the Kang War or the He Who Remains War or whatever. And he was like, thank you for joining me, which kind of still it kind of could still lead to she was a variant that was like, you know what, I'm gonna rock with this dude.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like that theory
Yeah,
still holds weight, because either way,
yeah,
the prime. We're gonna call, like, to be honest, it feels like He Who Remains is Prime King, because
yes,
he understood that everybody else is gonna come for me, and I need to make
mm-hmm.
sure that I set everything in a way that nobody can really even mess with your boy, and then I can rule from afar, and I had to really be down with the day-to-day business. I can have people to do that for me.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because too, if you see it when they were showing the scene when they were looking out at the sacred timeline when Ravonna and He Who Remains was talking, there were two chairs there. Unlike when we saw in the season finale of Loki, where it was just a desk and one chair, and he was like the administrator of everything. It was meant for him and her to rule together, and that's why he told her. Remember, he was like, "Go ahead and get everything straight." He says, I'll be right there behind you." That man was like, "Yeah." He said, "Miss Minutes," and that goes back to what Miss Minutes when Miss Bendis came back, hey, you want to play a game of chess? Because that was her. She said that was her initial protocol to be,
Yeah.
someone to play chess with. And he was like, no. And my man pulled the Emperor Palpatine, initiate Order 42.
Order 66.
Instead of Order 66, he said initiate Protocol 42. And she was like, oh, it's time? Okay. And then basically found out it was like mind wiping everybody in the TVA. And I mean, yeah. And Miss Minutes
Man.
knows so much more stuff, man, that we probably have even scratched the surface with
Nah,
the
yo.
crazy ass.
And yeah, and even the way that he's like the ultimate user because he just used everybody and used
Mm-hmm.
her. You know what I'm saying? It felt like they had like an intimate relationship. I'm not sure if it was the wildest sex scene you ever seen, but they definitely had an intimate relationship. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
he was like, you know what? It ain't even worth it no more. I got to do what I got to
Right.
do. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
he did. That's a very Thanos moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Most of people don't
He
have
felt
don't have
he
the
felt
courage to
this
do
was a
something like
necessary evil. So he felt that this was a necessary evil to keep the timeline and everything, in order, man. So that's wow.
that. Well, I mean, but
Um,
even was it even an evil to him though? I feel like that was just like
that was
that
his
was the
thing.
the, the inevitable end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, dude, can we talk about one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Victor Timely, my dude, the scene where him and Obi met just completely messed my head up. Completely. I was like, wait, huh? It was like that meme where the math was going in my head. Like,
Oh
how did
yeah,
where
yeah,
when where how
yeah.
because they was like, all right, there was like they introduced. They said, yeah, this is Obi, and he was like, Obi, and he was like, yeah, Ouroboros. And he was like, Ouroboros. And he pulled out the book, and he was like, yeah, I learned everything I did from a genius named Victor Timely.
He
If
said
we
from
didn't
from
mess
from
with him,
a
he
from a from a 19th century inventor named Victor
then
Timely. And he's
Victor
like,
Timely, right? And then remember what he said? He said, yeah, if we didn't mess with him, he would have been bigger than Einstein. He said he would have been bigger than
if
Einstein. And
he
then
would have had the resources. And these are
yeah,
the
he would have been bigger.
small things that like I think people don't be like looking into
Mm-mm.
because this is the very black of it all. Because there were so many black inventors who did not get patents because Thomas
Mm-hmm.
Edison was a jerk
Mm-hmm.
and he was stealing
Right.
patents from everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody.
From
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Y'all go look that up.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Edison was not a genius. Do you like, okay, here's the real life parallel. Thomas Edison was basically Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So if he would have had the resources, he would have been bigger than Edison. All right, go ahead. I'm
Edison.
sorry.
Right. And so then like he was like, and so then like Obi kind of looked up and looked at him. He was like, what's your name, man? He was like, Victor Timely. And he was like, oh, and it was like, I learned everything from you. I learned everything from you. And I was like, wait a minute. And then it was like, can you sign my book? Can you sign my book? I was just like,
Yeah,
what is
and and
going?
and and
And then
then
you know what was crazy?
go ahead,
What's my man? What's my man that's like following Obi who read the book?
Casey. Casey.
Casey was about to be like, can both of y'all sign? He was about to get both. He was about to get both of them to sign his book. Man, it was just like so this ain't nothing but one big loop.
It's
One big
crazy.
loop
It's
that keep
crazy. And even Ouroboros was like, "Oh my, it's like a snake eating its tail." I was about to say,
which is, yep.
"That's what your name means, stupid." Come on
That's what your
now.
name means, bro.
You
Yeah.
know, so like it just was a lot of stuff like that, and even the way that they play, like I'm still going back to the way that they placed the ending with the ending of the first episode, and it fills in some of the gaps for us.
Mm-hmm.
As there's only one place where I was like, I'm a little confused as to
What was
why
that?
how this is the future because the future back then everybody was okay. So when Loki in the first episode
Mm-hmm.
gets pruned and he's time slipping and he goes to the future and
Mm-hmm.
he says, "Oh, okay." That's when he actually announces to the audience that he's in the future because he sees
Mm-hmm.
skin. on the side of the old like computer monitor. In the
Mm-hmm.
future, everybody's in that little area, but the blast doors are still down. So
Mm.
I'm trying to figure out like where did it's like the same timeline. Like I'm trying to figure out like how did that work, because in the future
Yeah.
everybody's there, Victor's there, and all that good stuff. But in the past,
Yeah,
it's just it's him, it's dark, and then he's running around the building, and
that's true.
that's
Yeah.
where we show that he gets pruned, and then he gets
Maybe
pruned.
maybe that was before they came into the room. I don't.
I don't
Yeah, I
know.
see.
You know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
like the only like kind of like, discrepancy for me, which may not even be a discrepancy, but I just couldn't track that.
Right. Right. And and by this time in the episode, we done seen that Miss Minutes done locked everybody out and everything. And my favorite scene, like I said, the phone ring, which is another thing everybody was trying to figure out. Well, maybe it was this, that. It won't number Obi being like, "Hey, my man, where y'all at, bro? Like, we ain't got that much time left. What,
Seconds left,
what,
dog.
what the deal?" And then it was like, "Hey, we got to get Miss Minutes. She's in the system. The only way I can do it is if we reboot it." And they was like, okay. He was like, yeah, but if I reboot it, we're gonna take off all these defensive mechanisms to the TVA. They was like what? Like, yeah, like no magic. But you saw how like Sylvie and Loki was like, what? Turn it off, because they want to use their magic in the TVA because they never could use it. But as soon as they was able to do that,
They got
they
to
both said, Yo,
Brad.
turn it off.
And then they got the Brad, which was very Wanda Maximoff-ish,
Mm-hmm.
and the movie that everybody hates I'm gonna still defend to this day. And that's Age of
What's
Ultron.
up?
And
I ain't got
I
no beef
like,
with Age of
let me be honest,
Ultron.
yo, I like Age of Ultron before it was cool, before they retcon everything to tie back into WandaVision. I still like Age of Ultron, okay? I don't care what you have to say.
Okay.
Argue with your mama. Anyway, so
I ain't have a
I
problem.
no. People hate that movie. It's a lot of
Yeah.
it is a lot going on. Okay, admittedly, it's a lot going
Yeah.
on. Other than that,
Okay.
solid movie. So they when it was funny because Loki was like, "Yo, so you want that 1v1 again?" And and all of a sudden, Sylvie comes behind him, is like, and then he goes in the room. He goes in the room, and the way they show pruning this episode, they made it look
Mm-hmm.
so painful and terrible. So
Mm-hmm.
he ends up pruning your girl Ravana, and it's like she's like ah. But that scene when OB, and I mean, well, not Ouroboros, when Victor is so enamored by a machine that makes hot cocoa, and him and D90 go down to the machine or whatever, and he's
Uh-huh.
like, my brother in Christ, you have to share this moment with me. And he's like, I don't want no hot cocoa. He's
He
man,
was like,
whatever,
I'm
yo.
good, bro.
And he was like, it's pretty good. I never actually had cocoa before. That's what Lucky was saying to me. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
and then oh boss is like, and then he turns around to get himself some, and then when he drinks it, it almost looked like
It looked like the cocoa
Victor
pruned
set
him.
him up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I was like, yo, this is an elaborate scheme, but no, it
Mm-hmm.
was Breaking Brad, and the way that it was like he was like, ah.
Yeah. I was
I was
like,
like,
yo, he
yo,
pruned it from the inside out with the cocoa. I was like, oh, okay. It was Brad. Another thing that I noticed that was funny, I don't know if you noticed it or not, when Miss Minutes realized that they kicked her out the system, and she was like, they kicked me out the system. And she started glitching a little bit. You saw it at the time, was like, there's no need to be rude about because he said he felt that she was joking on him.
doesn't need to mock me.
Yeah, you gotta mock me. I think
Yo,
she
hey man, like what yo,
that's why you and me right here, man. I was
Tony,
like, yo,
this
he really thought that she was joking on the stutter, yo. For real.
and I don't even like it because a little bit to me that feels like improvised. But either way, like
Uh,
I don't know. Like there's a bunch of little small moments that Jonathan Majors did in this thing that are hilarious. So like when they're fixing the the what's the stupid machine called? The
I can't I can't think of the name of that
whatever
machine.
it's
The
called, whatever the MacGuffin
For
of
the
this
loom, that
episode.
little piece for the loom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Whatever the MacGuffin is called for this episode, and they put it in, it clicks in, and then goes around. You see him in the back, like slightly out of focus. Says yes, like
Yeah.
it's so like he was like so like excited about a bunch of little small things, man, and like
Yeah.
it's Jonathan Majors is like because like this, in order to do a role like this, it can go
Mm-hmm.
bad really fast because it ends up looking very campy and corny.
Yeah.
But he's
Mm-hmm.
towing this line of of I'm going to be slightly eccentric, but still
Mm-hmm.
be very charming and endearing. Because even when he went
Mm-hmm.
to talk to Ravonna after Brad got him, he was like, I am so glad you guys are okay.
Okay, he's like, I am
Like,
right. He was like, I am. I thought he was about to be like, I'm sorry. He was like, I am so glad y'all guys are okay in that. But yo, that glitching with Miss Minutes was so wild, and how it's like she reverted to like an old school digital plot, like with just little
yeah,
arms and stuff, whatever. And
yeah.
you saw her face going clockwise, and it stopped. And oh man, that it's like she was gone, but she mustered up enough energy to come back looking crazy as hell, talking about you'll never be him,
I was
and then went
like,
offline.
I
I
was like,
said,
what does that even mean, yo? Like,
yeah, I'm like, what is yeah, like what are we doing here? And I think the him she's talking about, it may be the he who remained, but I think it's that other. So when Victor came to the TVA through the time door, and
yeah.
he was in the room, and he came right in the middle of that main king who was looking real menacing and upset. I think that's the one she's talking about right there. Because remember, he turned around and looked and was looking at it, and he was just the main one standing there looking real menacing. But I think that's the one she's talking about. Not even he who remains or whatever. I think she's talking about that when she's like, "You'll never be him." But that
Mm.
also, but it also could have been. I was thinking this, but I also saw this on with New Rock Stars. They did it. I was like, "Oh, damn!" They thought the same thing I did. That could have been a way to trigger him to do something stupid, like I'm going to go out there with all that radiation and try to fix the loom, which caused him to shred. Maybe, maybe
I
not, but I
really, because that right there would have been again an inevitable end because all everybody was dying regardless of who went out there.
yeah.
The also okay, so episode 5, we got
Mm-hmm.
me what okay. The only person that really made it out of this is Ravonna
Yeah.
because she not in the
Because
TVA.
wherever she got pruned to or whatever, I don't,
I'm just saying,
it's
like,
yeah.
where is she? You know what I'm saying? Is she back at the end of time? Is
Yeah. Is she where
she
the Loki where all those Lokis were
oh
like
those
in the
Loki's were like that would like
episode before?
yo
You know
if
what?
she's hold on look, hold that thought. If
Mm-hmm.
she's back with all the other Lokis, episode 5 is gonna be just off the chain. Like I would love to see
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, but go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So once again, this goes back to my theory that Ravonna is a
Okay.
variant
Yeah.
of Cain. And this is why. Remember, Cain won the battle because he was able to tame Elias. And Loki and Sylvie together tamed Elias so they can get to He Who Remains. I think that might have happened with He Who Remains and Ravonna being able to tame Elias to get control of Elias at the center at the time.
That's good.
Which makes me goes into where we asked the question that we was like, what's next, man?
Yo, my because as of now, there's
Like
only I don't
I
really
seriously have no
know
theories.
because I really
Yeah.
because as I was watching this for the second time today, like I was really trying to figure out like, all right, where are we going? That's why I said Ravonna's still out there, and then I'm like, Are they gonna do it to where are they gonna do this almost like Rick and Morty style and then reveal to us that there is another TVA? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's the
Hmm.
only other way that I can think this is gonna work because it just resets. And then you can easily have you know be real funny? Like
What's that?
they have Ravonna killing the other TVA Ravonna and that being the Ravonna in that place. And then she takes over knowing that
Yeah.
with all the information she has. Because that's the only way this works in my mind is the many worlds, like the many worlds theory, like the parallel universe. Because
Yeah.
there's a couple of things that they established in episode 4 that really didn't talk about. One was the only reason because we was thinking it just because like there was in the TVA that stuff didn't work. Yeah,
Hmm.
I I think even the dampers being off, like what if like all the infinity stones they had actually could work, or because I'm saying
Yeah.
because
They
like
aren't paperweights in it. They
that's
aren't
what I'm
paperweights
saying, like
anymore.
all this magical stuff, quote unquote, and cosmic stuff actually has merit now because it's not because it just doesn't work because it's a TVA, because Kang knew all along all the threats that could come to the TVA and he put safeguards on everything.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, yo, how it ended is almost like if they was like if Feige and everybody in Marvel was like, all right, y'all, let's just do a whole new reboot and reset of
I'm
the Marvel
just
universe. And this basically
I
is how it ended. Was kind of
don't.
like it was kind of like it could be a complete reboot and a reset. You'll see
But
Tony Stark again, but it'd be somebody else playing him. You know what I'm saying? The whole it'll be a different. It'll be Black Panther again, but a new Black Panthers. I know they're not going to go that far, but it just seems like how it ended with you had the sacred timeline basically imploding because of all the branches that got caused because Sylvie. Also, it was hilarious when Obi like, yeah, because someone caused a bunch of and Sylvie was back there smiling like, yep, that was me. But when he sat there and said, yeah, which caused a lot of work for me, she kind of was like, oh, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, could it go back to that point? Could we get back to the point where right before she was about to kill, he who remains? It's just so many ways it can go. I don't even want to
Or
try to guess
or or maybe when
the
we go
beginning.
it no it'll just loop back to the point where or it'll loop back to the point where Loki was pruned and he gets shot back to the TVA and ends up saving Mobius because
Yeah.
because that's where we are for him. So if the
Mm-hmm.
time, because like the thing about it, because this, seeing how this is just some sort of like weird infinity.
Oh,
You feel what I'm saying? Like he can just come back and then we
I just
start
had a thought.
there, and then with the
I just had a
information he
thought.
has, makes a better decision.
I just had a thought. I have a feeling what happened at the end of this episode is not affecting Loki. And this is why I say it's not going to affect Loki. Remember the spot when he pruned himself, they was pulling him out of the timeline, which means he basically was just he's not in no timeline at all now. He's just there. So I think everyone else it got affected, but it's not affecting him. So he's just there. And I think what he's going to have to because there were other scenes that were done in the there were other scenes that were in trailers. And like I said, I know trailers aren't always, the end all to be all, where he glitched a whole lot more and he had that jacket on that he has on right there. He was glitching. Like there was a scene, if I'm not mistaken, he glitched in front of like a building that had like jet skis or something. And we know who has an affinity for jet skis. Maybe
Mhm.
he glitched to where Mobius was on the timeline to try to get him and wake him up. Man, it's so many ways this thing can go. And it's a damn shame we got to wait a week for it, man.
Yeah,
Because
that's
this felt like a penultimate episode more than
it. Yo,
more.
it
This was like the
it
penultimate before the
really
penultimate.
did. Like man, it just keeps elevating, man. And I'm
Yeah,
this man. All right, y'all, we gotta go. I hope you guys have a have a great weekend. We'll
yeah,
be back next next Friday.
right there. Yeah. Yo, happy homecoming
Happy
to the
homecoming,
Norfolk State
Spartans.
University.
Behold the green and
Behold
gold.
the green and gold.
All right, man. We catch y'all later.